Who are you? Where are you really from? What makes you you? Have you ever been in a situation where someone asks you where you're from and you just have absolutely no idea what to say? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Yash Vasani, and I'm here to talk about the profound relationship we have with our past, specifically with our ancestors and heritage, and how this inseparable link shapes your identities, values, and aspirations of students like you and me. As a fifth generation kid of Dutch nationality, of Sindhi ethnicity, who was born and raised in China, now attending a Canadian school, with parents who were born and raised in Curacao, Singapore, Indonesia, Thailand, and Australia, I've often wondered who I am exactly and what makes me me. I believe a lot of you in the audience may have grown up in similarly confusing situations. You may have passports from multiple countries. You or your parents may be growing up in different countries surrounded by various cultures. When our sense of identity is this confusing and includes so many influencing factors, which ones do we choose to help understand who we really are and where we belong? For a long time, I was confused about my identity and background. When people ask me where I'm from, what should I say? Am I from China, even though neither of my parents are from here? Am I Curaçaoan, a Singaporean, even though I've never lived in either of these countries? For me, this seemingly simple question became complicated, and it often left me wondering, where am I really from? But everything started to change when my grade 6 teachers, Mr. Danny and Miss Ivy, handed me an assignment to explore and write about my family history. Little did I know, this would become a catalyst, the beginning of a journey of personal discovery. As I began digging into my family history and interviewing my relatives, I slowly started to understand more about my ancestors and my own past. I learned about how my great great grandparents were forced to leave behind their own families, homes, businesses, and personal belongings during an event known as the Partition in August of 1947, one of the largest human migrations in mankind, during which about 15 million people migrated from Pakistan to India. At that time, my great great grandparents moved to Indonesia and Singapore in search of a better life. Honestly, before I even started that sixth grade project, I felt slightly embarrassed about this part of my family history. Who wants to admit that their family was forced to leave behind their own country? However, as I learned more, I realized how significant the 1947 partition was in my family's story, and how empowering it can be to embrace our past rather than to be ignorant about it. After several weeks of research and countless discoveries later, it hit me. I am who I am because of all those who lived before me. I am today a product of my ancestors. And this relationship with their history isn't just about the past. It's not just about where I'm from. It's also a significant part of who I am today and is a part of the bridge to my future. You know, around a year ago, in February, I had a chance to travel to India for the first time. I went to Amritsar, Punjab with my family, and we went to this rather fascinating partition museum. Until then, my connection with my ancestors seemed abstract, and it really only belonged on paper and in photos. I knew about them, but I'd never really seen the country they once called home. While I was there, walking through the museum, looking at the artifacts on display, watching video presentations, reading placards and historical records, and listening to stories, this hazy connection to a past started coming into focus. Kind of like a puzzle, but with each piece representing something from my history. As I explored Amritsar, wandering the streets and towns where they once lived and walked, I felt my connection grow even stronger. I finally felt like I wasn't just watching a blurry slideshow of their lives, but that I was finally experiencing a small slice of what their lives might have been like. What an honor to be able to walk the same grounds and be able to continue their legacy. Everything that was once on paper actually felt more real. And I'd felt like I'd found a tangible connection with my ancestors, one that had never been there before. And the more I walked, the clearer it became. Our ancestor stories aren't just dry historical facts. They're part of a rich narrative that's still being written, that we are now continuing to write, that's filled with emotions, dreams, aspirations, disappointments, and losses. These stories that we continue to write, like a chapter in a long and ongoing story, provide us with a sense of identity, linking us to the past and guiding us forward into the future. In other words, I know it's impossible to speak with my ancestors who have long since passed, but visiting my ancestral homeland helped me realize that they're all still around me, supporting me, and they're a part of me through the land, culture, customs, and traditions that we share. Fast forward 7 months, and I was traveling in Italy. During my time in Milan, I came across this coffee shop, Heige Coffee, with this slogan on the window: many branches, one root. And it suddenly hit me again. Even though the distance between my ancestors and I spanned miles, decades, and even countries, we're still connected. The same way all the branches of a tree are connected to the trunk and the roots. Fun fact, the slogan, many branches, one root, actually inspired the name of this talk. Ladies and gents, we are often encouraged to further pursue our bright futures. But today, I urge you, all of you, to discover your past, to always embrace and preserve your roots. Cherish this relationship you have with your ancestors, heritage, mother language, and culture, because whether you know it or not, it influences your future. So today, I implore you to walk forward as if you have 4,094 ancestors behind you, to build and keep building strong foundations to continue their legacy, to hold very firmly in your heart the memory of those who came before you. And with all this in mind, all of us here today, every single one of you, have the power within you to make the world a better place. And even though I'll never really know my ancestors or their dreams, I do know one thing. Never in a billion years would they have imagined that I'd be here today, standing in front of you, talking about them. In other words, if I could summarize my entire speech up into one tiny little phrase, it would be this: I am my ancestors' wildest dreams. In this moment of reflection, I want you to ask yourself, all of you to ask yourself, what makes you you? What shapes your identities, values, and aspirations today? What fuels you to wake up every morning? And how can you be your ancestors' wildest dreams? And this, ladies and gentlemen, is an idea that changes everything. Thank you so much for having me. I'm Yash Vasani.